Live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is August 4th. My, how the year has gone by. My name is David Warner, Community Program Manager with Microsoft, and I will be your host for the day. Let's talk about the agenda. We're going to have some latest updates. We're going to talk about independent publisher connectors. We're going to see some amazing information on all of our script samples, as well as team samples, Power Platform samples, and then it'll come to the time for picture mode, together mode, where everyone loves to turn on their camera and wave hello to the community, and we love to see your support. So we look forward to that. And then, of course, we've got two amazing presenters for the day. Louisa Fries, she's going to show us ProvisionGenie v3.0, localization and accessibility, and then Chris Kent is back. Warrior Horses Strike Back. So we look forward to all there is for list formatting. Let's talk a little bit about opportunities to participate in the community. There are many, and we would love to see you do that. One of the most popular is exactly what you're going to see today. You can demo a solution or a technical pattern on this or one of our other community calls, and we absolutely would love to see you do that. In fact, we've made a little form for you to fill out. Super easy. You can request a demo spot, aka.ms/m365pnp/request/demo. It just rolls off the tongue. So definitely submit that form if you'd like to provide a demo on these calls. Now, you can also contribute on GitHub. Maybe a little scary. We've got your back. We're going to provide some coverage on how you can take advantage of doing that. And of course, we love to hear feedback. So whether it's positive or improvement feedback, we just ask you to keep it happy and positive for us so we can ensure that we're doing the best possible job for the community. Let's take a look at all of those resources in one Slido links, as Patrick calls it. We've got a collection of videos for you, developer and community videos, in which you can consume information and see how others are using the technology that you as well are using every day. aka.ms/m365dev YouTube and aka.ms/m365pnp/videos. We also have a lot of open source tools and initiatives and programs that you can take advantage of. You can see them at a variety of GitHub locations: SharePoint, PNP, Office Dev, Microsoft Graph, and of course, we're going to see a lot about our sample repositories. There are many, many samples, and these samples are really, really fantastic for you to start learning, to start using a basis for maybe a production-worthy web part or extension or solution within your tenancy. So don't hesitate to take advantage. You need to remember only one URL. aka.ms/m365/community will give you access to all of these tools and resources at no cost. They are absolutely free and open source, available to you today. And if you're enjoying these community calls, well, there's more. We got lots of community calls for you to take advantage of. The top community call is the Microsoft 365 platform. Now, this is a weekly call that occurs on Tuesdays, and all of our presenters in this call is Microsoft employees. So you're going to see product managers and program managers. Now, it is on a summer break through the rest of this month. It will resume on the first Tuesday in September, but you can go get the recurring invite at aka.ms/m365-call. It will include the August dates, so you just ignore those for the rest of this month and you'll be good to go. We've got a host of other calls as well: adaptive cards, Microsoft Identity Platform, Office add-ins, Power Platform, which is a monthly call occurring in 2 weeks, and then, of course, the bi-weekly calls that you're part of right now. Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development, which you're on today, and Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework, which will be next week at this exact same time. They are bi-weekly. You can access all of these calls at aka.ms/m365/calls. Now, we're going to provide a number of opportunities in which you can engage. You've seen some of them already. We're going to provide more detail on some of them soon. But you may be a little unsure of how to do that. For example, I want to submit a sample, but how do I interact with GitHub? Not quite sure. What's a pull request? Well, we got you covered. Sharing is Caring is a program that's here to provide hands-on guidance for you. And that means that we're going to walk you through together in a live, safe space session how to accomplish a variety of these things. It's not recorded, so you can ask any and all questions that you would like without fear of feeling like, well, should I be asking that question? I'm really not sure. Should everyone know that? We want you to ask any and all questions, so we don't record any of the sessions to make you feel like it's going to go on record. And these are live. You're going to work with other members of the PNP team, MVPs in the community, and Microsoft employees to figure out how to accomplish some of these things together. We've got August and September dates coming up for our two newest, which is Writing for the Web and Power Platform Samples contributors. So please take advantage of this. We're starting to schedule more. It's been a summer break, so we know it's been a little slow, but as folks come back from summer, you're going to see more dates opening up soon. And of course, we want to recognize you for all the amazing work that you're doing. And that is why we've started the recognition program. Now, this is a program that provides official and formal accredited awareness and recognition for the work that you're doing. We're powered by Credly, which means that you get those official badges that you also get when you get a Microsoft certificate or certification. They can be associated on LinkedIn. You can share them on Twitter, put them on the fridge, share them with mom, share them with your friends, show them to your clients, show them to your bosses. It is a way that you can show that you're making a difference in a formal and official way in the community. We do need you to opt in, but there is no cost. We cover all the cost, aka.ms/M365PNP-recognition, and you only need to do that once. So don't feel like it has to be annual. You may have seen some of those badges coming out. We try to process them at least once or twice a month, so we've got even more showing up the next few days. And in fact, I know I've seen some new ones getting badges, like a Mr. Todd Clint. So take a look at those emails if you haven't already gotten them. They're going to be going out again this week in the next couple of days. We also have a number of initiatives we're going to cover now. So we have Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Seb is out on leave right now, but this is a fantastic initiative and program that you should be learning more about if you're interested in the graph. They are components that allow you to integrate the graph with almost no coding. Absolutely priceless. If you've not worked with it, you can learn more at aka.ms/MGT. Next up is independent publisher connectors. I'll hand it over to Natalie.
So independent publisher connectors are Power Platform connectors that anyone can contribute to. So we have 53 awesome independent publishers, 158 independent publisher connectors today. And in terms of new connector submissions, we've recently, in the past 2 weeks, received one for the Microsoft Partner Center, one for Snowflake, which I know a lot of people have been waiting for. So Renee has built that connector, and Troy has built 3 connectors, Datamuse, Moosend, and we also got 3 updates to existing connectors. Chandra, who originally built Notion, has extended that, and Troy has extended the 2 connectors that he's built in the past, QuickBase and School. If you've never built a connector in the past and you're interested in learning how to do that, I just listed it in an excellent learning module that we have. Feel free to check that out, try it out. But if you've your independent publisher connector and submit it and publish it, feel free to do so in our GitHub repository. And if you're for a connector to build and you're not sure which one to choose, feel free to go into the top connector asks in our GitHub repository as well. Thanks so much, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Really appreciate that. Another program we have is script samples. Now, this is one of the more popular because it's so broad in the opportunity to contribute. There's now 158 scenarios and 242 scripts, and this covers using Microsoft Graph, CLI for Microsoft 365, PNP PowerShell, SPL Management Shell, so much more. And all these scripts get bubbled up into the unified solution gallery at adoption.microsoft.com. So don't hesitate to not only look at these, but also if you've built little sample scripts that have been useful or utility scripts, this is the place where you absolutely can share them and earn your badge. We absolutely would love to see them. You can learn more at aka.ms/script-samples. Next up is Microsoft Teams samples with Bob German.
All right, thanks very much. It's good to be here. Unfortunately, we don't have any new samples this week, but we're always looking for one. If you have a sample you'd like to contribute, that would be great. Got contacted last week by Teams Engineering, asking if it was possible to get the samples upgraded to the new version of the JavaScript SDK. Now, the new version, the old version still works, but I can understand that the new version is a lot nicer. And where a lot of people build things on top of our samples, it would be great if they use the new SDK. So there's some links here. If you're looking for a way to contribute, and I'm planning to update my own samples, but if you're looking for a way to contribute and you don't have an idea for a new sample, consider upgrading one of the existing samples to the new SDK. The links are there. And what I would suggest is that you would go in and, you know what, I just did the same thing. I'm going to put the I was just asking where the connectors are, and I didn't put the repo for the team samples on the slide either. So my bad. I'm going to paste it into the chat right now. But anyway, if you're looking for a way to contribute, consider throwing an issue in the issues list for the sample and then assign yourself so that other people know to not simultaneously duplicate your work. And we'd love to see some submissions come in for upgrades to the SDK. Thanks, and back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, and pasted that link in the chat, but it is aka.ms/teams-samples for those that would like to access that repository. So thank you, Bob. Great work, everybody. All right. Next up is Power Platform samples. We have our very own Louisa Fries, who is going to be demoing today. She's created a progress bar component for Power Apps, very, very slick component that shows really, really cool ways to utilize those progress bars. And then a Power Automate sample from Raman Amadi for getting terms from the term store. So we really appreciate all these samples. You can learn more at aka.ms/Power Platform-samples. All right. Well, what time is it? Picture time. So if you would like to share your camera, feel free to turn that on, and I'll get this moved over here. And we'll close the chat. We'll start the recording. All right, a couple more seconds for everybody. Share your cameras. Feel free to share those cameras. Got a few more seats filling in. All right. All right. Good, good. Let's get, all right. We're still filling in, everybody. Still a few more seats. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and wave to the community. Woo! Tell everybody, do a little Seb, right? Got some more showing up. Excellent. You all look fantastic. Great to see such a vibrant and active. Todd's doing the dance. All right. Excellent. Very, very good. Okay. Well, then that is going to bring us to our stars of the day, and our first is going to be Louisa Fries on ProvisionGenie 3.0, localization and accessibility. So, Louisa, feel free to take over the screen share.
Okay, so then final words. Let me share my screen.
Okay, yep, so perfect. Looks great.
Looks great. That is cool. Okay, so hi, I would like to talk about ProvisionGenie version 3.0, focus this time on accessibility and localization. Very few words about myself. Hi, I'm Louisa. I'm an M365 and Power Platform consultant. I'm independent. I work from Germany. I'm an MVP in both M365 development and business applications. You can find my blog at m365princess.com, and if I'm not presenting, you will likely find me on Twitter as well. Okay, so for everyone who does not know what is ProvisionGenie, so ProvisionGenie is a provisioning engine for Microsoft Teams. It's built with Power Apps, Dataverse, and Azure Logic apps, and it's an open source project by myself and my dear friend Carmen Acevedo, which can't be here today, but I shall greet everyone. We already had a long journey with this project. So version 1 was really only creating a team, adding a channel, a list, library, task list, and a predefined tab. We quickly progressed to version 2, which could already add members and additional owners to a team, and lets users skip the creation of channels, libraries, and lists, so that we were just like a little bit more flexible. And a couple of weeks ago, we launched version 3.0, and that was a major progress because now we do support 3 themes for Teams, like default, dark, and high contrast modes. We have localization in 12 languages. You can add OneNote notebook to a channel, and you can pin lists and libraries to channels as a tab. So as today is all about accessibility and localization, you can find the full release notes at ProvisionGenie.com. I will add the link later to the chat as well, but you will find this. But speaking about localization, so it is really, we already have 12 languages, just like from Danish, Finnish, Portuguese, even Japanese. So, and that really looks cool. So for European, this really looks cool if you're not used to that. So hello to everyone who speaks Japanese, and thanks to our translators. But how does that work? So how can you make that happen, that you have 12 languages in a Power App? So as our data already sits in Dataverse, because that is just like really the preferred way of doing this in a Power App, we have a special table called Localization. And in this table, admins can decide which languages they want users to choose from. So if Spanish and English make sense in your market, then you can just like limit the choice to those two languages. If you want to have just like a full-blown application and have all languages available, that's up to you as an admin. Genie will then pick up the local, just like the language from the Teams context, and provide this in the language that Teams is running in, with a fallback language that is English if the language that Teams runs in is not supported yet. But users can also override that choice. So if there, I don't know, Teams runs in English, but they want to display Genie in Finnish, they can absolutely do that because it is their choice to do so. And how we did that is pretty flexible, and it also ensures the performance of the app, because you can imagine if we always needed to call just like a lot of values from an external database, which Dataverse still is, so it's not locally available in the app, then they would just like add massive delays. So we use a collection to display only the language that is currently selected, and then we use a lookup function so that we do not have just like a lot of nested if statements to determine in which language we are now in. That makes sure that if we later add new languages, that we do not need to change our Canvas application at all anymore. So a little call to action: if you speak a language fluently, that is not listed on the left-hand side of the slide, and you're willing to help translate ProvisionGenie, then please do reach out to me. Okay, so how do we make this magic happen? First, catalogize all, like really all texts of the application. This includes texts that are printed to the screen, but also just like error messages, warning messages, and so on. Then have them all translated. We used just like super simple Excel sheet for that. And then upload this Excel sheet data to Dataverse. So first I tried to import this. Later I got the gist that this would better work with the data flow, because once data is updated in an Excel sheet, because I don't know, some values change because someone found a more elegant translation, then of course that should be updated as well automatically. And last thing that you needed to do is thank all the amazing contributors. And as this is a community call, so thank you to everyone who really translated an entire app in their free time. So thanks to everyone. So how does this now work? I will stop presenting here and jump right into the demo. So what you can see is Power App Studio, and I already opened ProvisionGenie, and I want to show you what happens. So we have here a simple text label, and this text label, of course, has a text property, and as you can see, it uses a lookup to a collection. And then it asks for a key, which says label welcome, and it returns a value. So let's see what happens and where this collection is being collected and what is that value about. So if I go here to settings and I say, hey, I want to have this app, I don't know, maybe I want to have this app in French, which is français. Then we can see that the entire app language already changed to French. So there is nothing that is English anymore. So how does this now work? If I go in here and say, I want to see what this unchanged, which I did, what that does. So what it does is it sets the display language to a variable, and then I say I want to clear collect into a collection called call language, and I want to filter my localizations table, and the language should be the same than the selected language from my drop-down menu. Okay, so for that, we would need to know, yeah, but what is the localizations table? The localizations table is something that I prepared for you here. So that is a view of the localizations table. It sits in Dataverse, as you can see, and we have a key, we have a value and we have the language. So if I want to search for something, just like look up something that is LBL welcome, so there I would need to scroll down or set a certain filter to that, but then it already knows the language because I filtered my localization table into this collection. So that I only get the data that I really need, which makes the app faster as well. And then I will return this value here. Okay, so and that means that every single text that is displayed in the application works like that. So there are no hard-coded texts inside of this app, not even error messages or warning messages, but every single text sits in the localization table in Dataverse and is then being collected into a local collection with this drop-down menu. So switching to another language, and as you can see, the entire app already changes again. So this is what we do. And to quickly show this here as well, if I select this drop down and I'll see what is the items property. So the items property determines what is shown in this drop down menu. So it refers to another Dataverse table, which is the supported languages table. So that's another one than the localization table. And in that we only have the values of the languages, and it refers to the localization tables, and there are the languages column, so that admins can decide which language do we want to display here, because it does not always make sense to have all kinds of languages, but in this demo I chose to show off all the languages because we're very happy to have them in here. And as my Netherlands is not as good as it should be, I will switch to English again and close this pop-up again. So as you can see, everything is localized and works like a charm, and it's even fast because we only collect this locally when we choose or select the language. And by default, it checks which language is in Teams and gets this context and defaults to English if the language is not available. Okay, next thing would be accessibility in our application. So we feel like accessibility is not a luxury thing that you should add on top to an existing app, but it should really be one of your major design goals. And this is why we really invested very, very massively into accessibility. And I would like to show you what that means to us. So first is, I hinted this already, we have 3 themes. Default, dark, and for accessibility reasons, high contrast theme. And this is especially interesting for everyone who has a hard time seeing or is partly or completely blind, because that then helps to even see just like a little bit if the contrast is high enough. We also made sure that we manipulated the themes.json file so that if I add a new control, it already adapts to that look and feel of Teams, and also that works in all 3 themes, which is quite nice and of course reduces the effort that I need to make as a developer. Second thing is we have a screen reader and keyboard only support, and we do this in a way that we have always the accessible label property for all controls fields, and in these as well, we use the lookup function to do this in our 12 languages. So it's not that the accessible label is only available in English, but we want to make ProvisionGenie available to more and more and more people, and that is why all the comms is then available in our languages. We made use of the role property of all text labels, which determines is something a heading 1, a heading 2, a heading 3, or just like a default body text, which makes it easier for screen readers to announce everything correctly, and so that users who have a hard time seeing something are just like more at ease what belongs together. And then, of course, we use the tab index property to really make sure that people can easily tab through our app with the tab on the keyboard, because everything follows a logical order. And as I already said, just like only a couple of times, that including all these error warning messages is available in 12 languages. So it ties into the localization thing as well, which is why we chose to present this at the same time. Okay, quick demo of accessibility. So I opened ProvisionGenie already in Teams, so ProvisionGenie can work as a standalone app, but you can also run it as a personal app in Teams. So this is what I did right here. You can see I run Teams in the web client right now in the dark mode. So, but not everyone runs Teams in dark modes, I guess. So what I can do is, of course, I can go to settings and switch to default mode, and then Teams switches to default mode. And if I then just like reload my application, it will pick up the right theme from the Teams context. And yes, this is a developer environment. I know this. I will pick out the right colors, and you can see that I now run ProvisionGenie in default mode as well. And if I do the very same thing with high contrast mode, high contrast, and then I reload the application. And yes, thank you for that. Then you can see this runs in high contrast mode as well. And for everyone who does not work on a regular basis with high contrast theme, this could look a little bit ugly to you. So maybe it's just like uncommon for you. But trust me, for everyone who needs a higher contrast, this is just like really the way of consuming and interacting with apps. And also it makes sure that additionally to that theme, we have a screen reader and keyboard only support, so that we really make sure that more and more people can benefit from the application that we developed. So how does this now work? Switching back to Power Apps Studio. So I have an app object, and it is here on start. And what I do on start is I set themes. So I can either do this if I get the context from Teams. This is done with the param function, or I can do this with a drop-down menu. So this is mostly for debugging and development purposes, because mostly people will not override this, but they can do so. And then I defined all my app colors. And I refer to all those app colors in something that I call the global app styles. So you can see for each and every single control that I always have 3 values, one for dark, one for default, and one for high contrast mode, and then a simple text label like that. So we already determined it has a text property, but that has, of course, also a color property. And you can see it's global app styles.label.color. And in this preview, it's shown that here in default mode, this is blackish, I would say. So what happens if I now go in here and I override this and I say, hey, I want to have this app in dark mode? It is still the same value. It is global app styles.label.color, but it resolves to a white-ish. So it's not completely white, but white-ish, because I defined that in on start and made this dynamic. And that means that everything is always adjusted just like on the fly, on time, without needing to have a different application or something like that. And this is quite convenient for users because they get displayed the app in the theme that they are already using. But if they want to run it standalone, or if they have a good reason to just change that, they can do so, like they can change the language as well. And with that, I would like to say thank you to everyone who attended this. If you feel like contributing to ProvisionGenie because you're a Power Apps person or you want to become a Power Apps person, please don't hesitate. You will find the GitHub repository and the complete docs at provisiongenie.com. Thank you.
Very, very cool, Louise. Thank you for sharing that. I love how inclusive that is. 12 languages, that's impressive. Accessibility is an important thing. Thank you. ProvisionGenie is granting wishes just like that, right? So we want to appreciate and thank you for that. Okay, next up is Chris Kent with list formatting and a bunch of horses.
Yeah.
We're waiting, Chris.
Yo. Let's share this here screen.
I see your screen and your face.
Ooh, wow, that's my face. None of this is me, but that's my face. All right. So, hey, everybody, I'm Chris. I'm going to talk to you about some list formatting stuff today. Very exciting. So let's head on over to our classic Warrior Horses site that we all have, of course. Good. So we're on our Warrior Horses site, and the Warrior Horses have put together a very short list of elite warriors, right? So we have this elite warriors list. What they're actually doing with the list, not that important, right? But the idea is they're just tracking some things here. And what they've run into is they've got a manager that's decided they don't like how this looks. They're like, oh, there's the weird gray. We use brown everywhere else, and there's a weird gray. I don't like that. I want it to be all these other colors, right? So now we can do some things like that. And we've seen this before. We go into Format Our Current View. And if we go to Advanced Mode, we can do what's called an additional row class. And what I want to show you with that, well, first off, we don't want an object. We want a expression here. All right, so we could easily say, you know, MS, what is it, BG color, and we could say red, just because we're like, here, you like pretty? There's pretty. All right, there's the prettiest thing possible, right? And that's not so pretty. All right, and we want to do this a little more carefully. Now, we could add expressions here, right? So we could add an expression to determine, you know, what those should be and so on. And I want to look at a fairly new placeholder that can help us with this, right? So in this case, we want to say, you know, the background color is going to be, I don't know, let's pick one out. We'll say theme lighter. So MSBG color, we'll just go neutral lighter. That sounds good. All right, so instead of that white background, we wanted this slight gray background, and that's okay. Right, but now we've matched our hover color. Like, dang it. Right, now we don't have the hover, and that's kind of annoying. So now we could add our own color right here for that. We can say MSBG color, you know, we'll say theme lighter dash hover. Right, and when we do something like that, now we've got our own custom hover color, and we got our own custom background color, and that's nice. Right, and then we run into this. You know, I select an item, and well, now we don't run into an issue. It was supposed to be the wrong color. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now we get the wrong color, right? So now we get this weird gray, and we're like, well, how do we set that? Right, because that's unique based on when it's selected or not. And that's what we're going to talk about. And that is our new placeholder token called isSelected. So if I were to take this same kind of thing here, I'm just going to cut that, so I'm going to type it again. And I could say equals, I'm going to write an expression. I'm going to say if, and I can look at isSelected. Keep in mind the is all lowercase and selected as capital S. But this is going to return a true or false value based on whether it's selected or not. And so now I can, you know, type in some things here. So if it's selected, I'm going to do something, but if it's not, we'll keep what I had before, right? So now, when it's selected, we're not doing that, but let's add some other things here. So now I'm going to say MSBG color, we'll go theme light, right, because it's selected. These are case sensitive. All right, theme light. And we'll just see what that looks like for a second, right? So now we can see, now we're setting a selected color. Right? If we want to override so it doesn't hover anymore because it's not selected, you know, we could come in here and we could say MSBG color theme light dash hover. All right, and then when we do that, now we shouldn't get that anymore. So that's kind of cool. So now we're controlling a little more of the experience, right? If we wanted to go a little further, we could. Where am I getting these classes from? So if you head over to our list formatting repo and you click on this link over to the right, we've got this site with some documentation, some other groupings and things. And the way I use this all the time is I use the groupings and I go down by class. And I literally use this to find out what can I set. Oh, I want to find out backgrounds. Well, here's some MSBG colors like we just looked at. I can see there's a bunch of named colors. There's also theme colors. Right, there's the neutral colors. All of these are in here. And I can use these to help me determine what's available. Right, you can see I've got other things like what if I wanted to slap a border on there, right? So we come down here and we got these like SP field border, right? So let's take one of those. So SP field border all dotted. Sounds exciting. All right, so maybe we added when you're selected, we also want to say MS was it field border? Actually, let's try a different one. Let's try there's a couple of these. So SP field border all dotted. And that one was on here. It's just in the SP field border. Yeah, that's what it is. All dotted. We got that. Let's try it. So preview that. So now you notice there's some weird things where they're actually doing a thing where they're actually they didn't quite do the border sizing right. But you know, the idea here is we can start applying classes. We can do so based on selection or not, and that's pretty cool. Right. So we'll save that, and we can do the same thing in our column format. So if we come over here, I've got a column format here on the horse. Right. We're going to column settings. We're going to format this column. Come over here, and all we're really doing is we're pulling a picture out of the document library and we're displaying it based on the value here. You know, we could have used an image column, we could use even a picture column, but we wanted to do something a little more elaborate here in this case. And now we've got that, but we could come in here and we could even use the same kind of pattern. So if is selected, right, and then we could say add to the URL sitting, right? Otherwise, just leave it alone. All right, and if we preview that, and we'll save it. Oh, well, we have to put a plus symbol here. Broke our formula. Let's preview that. See if that's right. I'm going to refresh. I've had a couple of issues today with my stuff. There we go. Perfect. So now we can see that now the horses will sit down whenever we selected them because they're ready to be doing something with them, and that's very exciting. But the idea here is, is that particularly practical right now? No, but you could find probably lots of use cases where this would be very, very practical. Right? The idea of being able to indicate when something is selected, whether it's in your view format and so on. A couple things to note with this is this only works if selection is enabled. So if you hide that selection, you have no way to select. And there's nothing to be selected. I've also seen some weird stuff like you'll see here. Like you see this where if I'm not selecting the select button, I don't get my same quite the styles. The columns all get it. It's that additional row class that doesn't seem to be evaluated quite right. But if I hit edit, it does get reevaluated. So there's a couple of weird things with the additional row class and the is selected and how that's being evaluated. But otherwise, is selected, evaluates immediately. And the idea here is you could use this to indicate when you're customizing, say, the ribbon up here. Oh, not ribbon, sorry. Oops. Command bar. When you're customizing the command bar, right, you're doing certain things with selection. You may want to indicate, various things that could happen here to say like, oh, this one is going to, if you hit delete on this one, right, it's going to be doing something here. You could even change the button text based on what has been selected and so on. So you can see that now we've got an extra tool in our tool belt. All right. So that's for is selected. So that's really exciting. Okay. Now let me make sure that that went very, very fast. So good news is I've got something else we'll show you too, just for funsies here. All right. So that was the primary demo, but let's look at one that is we're going to do on the fly, just for fun here. Okay. So what we're going to do on the fly here is there's a new custom action here, and we're going to take a look at it. So what if you were saying, like the title class, like this is cool. I've got these extra things, but you know what? I really want to do something where I want to change this slightly based on a formula, right? So we're going to invent an arbitrary formula here. We're going to format this column. Let's go to advanced, and let's just say let's put a div in there. That sounds exciting. All right, a div, and then we'll say our attributes just to make this look the way we want. We're going to have a class on there. And we're going to say this is the MS font color neutral primary. And then usually I very rarely have things in the primary thing. I usually create children just because it saves you steps later. All right, so if you just kind of have a wrapper div up at the top and then anything you actually want to put in there, you put in the children. That gives you a lot more flexibility and so on. But in this case, we're going to say this will also be a div, and we'll just say our text content. Oops. Text content we're going to say is the current field, right? So that'll take in whatever the title value is. Preview that. Okay. So you see, we've just done that. That's interesting, right? We've lost some things. And if we wanted to, like the whole reason we wanted to do this, right, was to have something happen. So let's go to our attributes again. And we're going to throw a class on here. We're going to do an expression for a class, right? So we're going to say if we'll go, it starts with the current field. Give this a little arbitrary, but fun. If it starts with a C, let's do an MS font color of green and an MS font weight of bold. All right, we'll make it bold. Otherwise, just leave it alone. All right, but the idea here is now there we go. So we're trying to do something where we're trying to reuse this title field. Right, we're trying to do some kind of expression, but you'll notice we just lost, some of those things we had. Where's our dot menu with the context menu? Right, we know we can right click and get a context menu, but it's a hassle. Doesn't show things. Right, where's our share button? A couple other things that we had before. So we can actually start to restore some of these things. And what we'll do is let's just add another child. This is why we do the children. The children. All right, we'll say elm type. In this case, is going to be a div. All right, and we'll say, let's make it an icon here. We'll say attributes. And we'll go here. We're going to go icon name. And we need an icon. So actually, I've got an icon up. Let's see. I don't remember what that thing's called. Let's see. Dots. There we go. Dots. So it's called more vertical. Okay. And I will show you more about this, but let's come back here. So we're just going to paste that in here. More vertical. All right. And what does it not like? What did I do? Attributes, additional attributes to be added to elm type. Well, I don't know what I did wrong. Anybody spotting it? let's see, I got name, I don't know. Let's just grab all of this and find out what do you not like. It likes all that, so let's just paste that in. Oh, because I didn't do it as the right spot. There we go, we'll paste it there. All right, turns out you have to format your stuff correctly. There we go. So now let's preview, let's format that so we can see it look a little prettier. All right, but now you can see we've got these 3 little dots. I don't know if you can see them. They're real tiny there. See, woo, 3 dots. Okay, so now we've got 3 dots. Well, let's make that just look a little better because that's going to drive me nuts otherwise. So let's add a style here, and we're going to add this as display. We'll make this say flexbox. So I'll say flex, and we'll say justify content, and we'll call this space screen. That should help us. Yeah, it moves that little menu over to the right. So that's exciting. You know, we could come up here and we've got this neutral primary. That's all good. So we come down here and let's change this up a little bit. So let's actually make this useful, right? So we've got a little 3 dots. Now we're just confusing people. Let's make it do something, shall we? So let's add a class just so we can see that a little better. Class, in this case, we're going to say MS font color theme secondary dash just hover, right? An MS font, we'll say L. Again, I'm pulling all of these classes off of that site. I just happen to know some of them. So now I've made the button bigger, and now you can see it changes color slightly to red when we hover over it. So that's exciting, right? In fact, we want to do something a little further. We're going to say our style. In this case, we're going to say a cursor, and let's put that to a pointer so it, because obviously we should be able to do something with that. There we go. Now we've got a little something. We still can't do anything. So now we're still confusing people, but here's now what we can do. Now we can actually say custom row action. Yeah, this action. And the action here in this case is going to be open context menu. All right, so let's preview that. And so now, there we go. We've restored the 3 dots menu. And we've got our, our expression here. We could add one more button here to add that share button back. We could even add one for the comments, right? We've even got some samples on how to get comment counts if you wanted to change that. And so instead of add comment, you can actually show the comment count and so on. So you can start to recreate that title field or whatever the field you're looking for and put that in there, or if you wanted to put this, say, a centralized spot with all your other buttons, there's a lot of options there if you're using this open context menu. So woo! All right, that's exciting. There's your on-the-fly demo, and it looks like I've still got time. David, I've got another one I could do if you want.
Take it away. Have at it. You got time.
All right. And again, these are unproofed, so we're going to see what happens. This will be exciting. So this is another new piece here. So we're just going to leave that for fun. We'll move over to our primary weapon category. Let's zoom this a little bit. There we go. And let's go in column settings, and we're going to change it here. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to just ignore this primary weapon thing. I just need a column to format on. All right, so we're going to say elm type. In this case, we'll say another div because you know me, I love the divs. All right, and then we'll say our children. As I mentioned, I like to put everything in a child because it comes up. And then we'll say another div in here, and we're just going to say our text content, right, is, I don't know, dog, cat, lizard. I don't know why. All right, so the idea is that we can start to control stuff, but what if we wanted to do something? So say we had values that were separated by something, right? We have the idea of a join. So if you've got a multi-select field, or you can join those together. So if you've got multiple people selected, you can join those with commas, or if you've got choices, you can join those. We have a new expression called split, which is kind of the opposite of that. And that gets pretty exciting. All right, so we could say equals split. This is, again, arbitrary. We're going to split this thing, right? And we're going to split it by comma. And you'll find that I think this will be interesting. Does it work? Now, what did I do? Split the dog count. Again, it's new. Oh, it doesn't really change anything. Okay, so let's try this. Let's do a for each instead, because that'll be more fun. So if you're not familiar with for eaches, for each allow you to do like an iterator, right? So you can see just like that iterator in field name. So normally you would do that with a multi-select field, right? So we would give this, we'll just leave it iterator name. You could name that whatever you want, and then you would apply this. What's interesting is you can use a split, right? So we can say split, and let's do our same, dog, cat, lizard. Sounds good. And we'll split that by the comma in there. And then what we want to do is our text content. We got text content will equal the iterator name that we used up above. And let's see if that works. So now what's happened here is they're all just being concatenated all together, right? But if we were to change this to, have a style, for instance, so let's do style. We'll just do it this way. We'll skip the classes for now. We'll say border, say 1 pixel solid. Pink sounds pretty. Preview that. You can start to see that we've actually taken these and we're really generating a separate div for each one of these. So you start to see this becomes really, really powerful pattern. Then hopefully we'll have a better sample of this soon, that shows us a little more advanced detail. The idea is if you had a column that had, a lot of different types of things, you could split that across and you could then, iterate out on these and create an element for each one of those and then make decisions based on those, right? So we could have made this, instead of pink, we could have determined when it was capped, right? So in fact, we probably could still. Let's do that. Let's say equals, and we'll say 1 pixel solid. And instead of pink, we're going to say plus, and we're going to say if the iterator name equals cap. All right, then we're going to say make it pink. Otherwise, we're saying make it, lime, because that's lime and pink always look good together, right? So let's preview that. And of course, I broke it. What did we do? Let's try that. There we go. Equals. Gets you every time. But the idea here is I'm not splitting an arbitrary value, but this could be coming from a field or whatever else. And then I'm creating individual elements based on that. And then I can apply conditional formats. I can do all sorts of stuff, right? I could, instead of, these are all being, because by default in these columns, you get, when you have selection on, you get flex with a column layout. So they go all side by side. So divs behave just slightly different when you have the selection on. But the idea here is I could use that, right, to create a whole list of items, right? I could have these all listed out separately. And I could pull that out. And we've had all sorts of samples that have tried to work around this, right, by using our index ofs and replacement statements. So having a split finally is really awesome. And the fact that split can work with inside of for each really opens up a ton of possibilities, with a lot of power. Again, that's much more of an advanced topic when you start doing the for each. But as you get to that, I think you're going to find that you can actually simplify your formats using this same technique where I'm using a hard-coded kind of sort of pseudo array here. And you could do that the same way, right? If you wanted to create a collection of icons or something, you could split those all up and create those all out here and then create, that way you don't have to write these massive formats that are, 500-600 lines long. You could kind of handle that all together because the for each makes this element into basically a template, which is pretty cool. And you could even wrap in those is selected and so on and open a context menu just to pull it all together, which is awesome. So we have some additional things coming as well. So there is an additional row action coming to open the approval dialog, which should also help. And then we even have another function, which I'm not going to, I won't demo here because we're just running out of time here, called replace all. So we've had replace, and it's been very irritating because it just replaced the first instance of something. So if you wanted to replace multiple instances of something, you had to just basically nest replace and just hope that you got it enough times to capture that. With the replace all, like you would expect, it's a one-liner, and you can just replace all occurrences of something in a string, which can be really, really helpful as well. And we use that with split. That's awesome. And there's a couple other array type functions like split. So split can work across an array. This is creating an array of these values, but you can use append to and remove from on those as well. So if you're not familiar with those, please check out our documentation, which you can, I imagine David probably dumped a link in the chat already. But it's AKMS SP docs column formatting is what that would be. So aka.ms/SP docs column formatting. And if you haven't checked that out, right, if you go to the advanced or the formatting syntax reference, right, you can find out all about those operators and so on that I've just mentioned down here in the expressions section. Right, so there's a ton of operators you can use. There's those remove from, append to I talked about if you wanted to start working with array type objects, whether you're saving them or not, or whether you're just iterating through them. So anyway, all that to say, this stuff is getting better and better all the time. There's all sorts of new things being added behind the scenes. So stay tuned for more list formatting stuff. And I will kind of wrap up the one part of the plan demo here. And that was this, the is selected. So if you actually just take that as your text content, you'll get true. It's actually lowercase true and a lowercase false when it gets converted to a string. But it's very easy to use, right? Just by itself. So you can say if is selected. You don't need to say is selected equals, true or anything like that. You just say is selected. but you could use that with the ands or the ors to wrap that up in kind of an elaborate expression. And the main thing is, obviously, when you hide selection, it's a no-go. All right, finally, a couple of resources for you. Right, so apparently you can go SPDocs or SPDev, so that's fun, for the full documentation. And then, of course, the icon site I showed off there is the flycon.io, where you can get a bunch of icons that can be used in side formatting. We've got another tool here, and this is more for if you're managing repos. And then check out all our samples. And if you go to this link here, you can also get to that quick and easy link to see our groupings and so on, to see samples that are showing you how to use these classes. So the classes I showed you here are listed, and you can sort of get an idea of what they do just based on the name. We've got a slight preview of them, but you can also see any sample that's using them. And that's usually the best way to see, how do these interact, how do they work together, and so on. So that's it for me.
Awesome, Chris. Thanks. And thanks for adding a little extra sugar on top there for the demos today, some extra stuff. Really appreciate that. Everybody loves to see sneak previews of upcoming and new functionality. All right, let's wrap it up, everybody. Thank you again to Louisa and Chris for your amazing demos today. We have more available to you. The recording of this will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 Community YouTube channel. You can access that at aka.ms/m365/videos. You will not be able to download the video if you see it in the chat. Don't worry, it will be posted on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe, and you'll automatically get the alerts when they are available, or check out the blogs as well. You're going to see a blog post on it. Follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at M365PNP. The next general dev call is 2 weeks from today, August 18th at 7 a.m. Pacific, and the next Viva Connections and SPFX call is on August 11th, 1 week from today, 7 a.m. Same bat channel, same bat time. You can access all the calls at aka.ms/M365/calls. Thank you again, everybody, for making this the best community out there. Have a great rest of your week and a wonderful weekend.